Okay, starting with the normal microbial flora. So, what is basically a normal flora of a eye, and which are the general microbes which are present in the eye? Okay, so relatively, eye is basically free of microorganisms. Eye is basically free from microbes. Okay, but under some conditions there are chances we may be able to isolate we may be able to isolate some of the microorganisms which are basically present in the eye. Okay, so basically eye, which is basically relatively free from microorganisms due to the flushing of tears and the action of the presence of the lysozyme. Okay, actions and the presence of lysozyme which is present in the tears. Okay, although the eye and skin may have a distinct anatomy, they are both in direct contact with the external environment. An important component of the eye is the nasolacrimal drainage system. It's a nasolacrimal drainage system which serves as an conduit for the fluid of the eye, which is called as tears. Okay, we already know what are tears. And this tear flow from the external eye to the nasal cavity by the lacrimal apparatus is basically composed of the structures which are involved in the tear production which are involved in the tear production and the lacrimal gland above the eyes secretes the tears to keep eyes moist, and there are about two openings, one on the side of the upper eyelid, okay, and another one on the side edge of the lower eyelid near the nose. Okay, and each of the openings are basically called as lacrimal punctum. Okay, and together this lacrimal puncta collects the tears from the eyes, and that are then conveyed to the lacrimal ducts to a reservoir for called the lacrimal sac, and also known as the decrocyst tear sac, also known as the lacrimal ducts. Okay, to a reservoir called lacrimal sac and also known as decrocyst or a tear sac. And from the sac, basically tears flows via a nasocranial duct to the inner nose. Okay, and each nasocranial duct is located underneath the skin, which passes through the bone of the face into the nose. Okay, and chemicals in tears such as defensins, lactoferrins, and lysozymes help help to prevent colonization by pathogens. In addition, mucins also facilitate removal of microbes from the surface of the eye. Okay, so the surface of the eyeballs and inner eyelid are mucous membranes called conjunctiva. Are mucous membranes called conjunctiva, and the normal conjunctival microbiota has still not been characterized well, but does exist. Okay, but does exist. Okay, and there are about 12 genera till now which has been identified, which are present consistently in the conjunctiva, and these microbes are thought to help the membranes against pathogens. Okay, and in the case of a use of a contact lenses, okay, can cause the changes in the normal microbiota of the conjunctiva by introducing another surface into the natural anatomy of the eye. Okay, so the watery material inside of the eyeball is called as vitreous humor. Unlike conjunctiva, it is protected from the environment contact and is always sterile. Okay, the eyeball is always sterile. Okay, now some of the examples are Corynebacterium, Moraxella, Staphylococcus. Okay, now the nose and the nasopharynx and the respiratory tract and the respiratory tract. Okay, simply respiratory tract which is basically divided, okay, into upper and lower ones. Okay, upper respiratory tract and the lower respiratory tract. Upper which contains nose, and the lower which basically contains lungs and other systems. Okay, lungs and other systems. Okay, so the respiratory tract basically, okay, the diagram shown here is of a respiratory tract, okay, which contains nasal cavity on the upper end, nostril, oral cavity also, which is a part of the respiratory tract, and pharynx and epiglottis. Next comes the larynx, trachea, bronchi, bronchioles, okay, as a whole, which consists of a left and right, left and right lungs. Okay, so what are the regions which are involved in the colonization of the microbes? Okay, there are some of the open connections, okay, between the mesodermal ducts, okay, and with the lacrimal glands, okay, and basically the sites which move from nasal cavity to the sinuses, that is middle ears, okay, and down into the lower respiratory tract from the nasopharynx, okay, and the oral cavity is basically a secondary opening for the respiratory tract, and the oral and the nasal cavities connect to the fauces to the pharynx or the throat, and the pharynx can be divided into basically three regions: the nasopharynx, okay, the nasopharynx, the oropharynx, and the laryngopharynx. The air inhaled through the mouth does not pass through the nasopharynx. It proceeds first to the oropharynx, and then through the laryngopharynx. And there are also tonsils. Okay, you all know what are tonsils. The palatine tonsils, which consist basically of a lymphoid tissue, okay, which are located within the oropharynx and the laryngopharynx, the last portion of the pharynx, which connects the larynx, which contains the vocal cord, okay, which contains basically the vocal cord. Now the lower respiratory system, okay, simply I am going to give you a basic idea only. The lower respiratory system begins with the epiglottis in the larynx, okay, which you can see in the diagram, okay, and the trachea or the windpipe is basically a cartilaginous tube, is basically a cartilaginous tube extending from the larynx that provide obstructed path, that provides an obstructed path for air to reach the lungs, for air to reach the lungs, okay. And this trachea now bifurcates, okay, bifurcates into left and right bronchi, into left and right bronchi at it reaches the lungs, where you can clearly see in the diagram also, okay. These paths branch repeatedly to form small and extensive networks of the tubes called bronchioles, which can be again seen in the diagram very clearly. And the terminal bronchioles formed in the tree-like networks and in the cul-de sacs, in the cul-de sacs, which are called alveoli, okay, which is basically not seen in the diagram right now. And these structures are surrounded by capillary networks, and are the sites of the gas exchange in the respiratory system. And the human lungs contain on the order of about more than, okay, more than 1 crore alveoli, okay, more than 1 crore alveoli. And the outer surface of the lung is basically protected, okay, is basically protected with a double layer pleural membranes, and these structures protect the lungs and also provides the lubrication, to permit lungs to move easily, during the respiration, okay. And what are the natural defenses, of the respiratory system? The inner linings of the respiratory system consist of a mucous membranes, okay, mucous membranes. Now please see this diagram, okay. It's an respiratory tract which is been lined with a mucous membrane of the ciliated cells, epithelial cells, and the SEM, this one is a SEM, scanning electron microscopy, of the cilia, okay, where you can clearly see the cilia. And these are the specialized structures sweep the articles towards the mouth to be expectorated or swallowed, okay, to be expectorated or swallowed, okay. Now basically defenses, discussing about the defenses. The inner lining of the respiratory system consists of a mucous membranes and is protected by a multiple immune defenses. And the globulate cells within the respiratory epithelial secrete a layer of sticky mucus, and the viscous and the acidity of the secretion basically inhibits the microbial attachment, okay. So the viscous fluid, okay, which is being released, which is also a acidic one, basically inhibits the microbial attachment. In addition to this, uh, as seen in the diagram, there are also cilial epitheliated cells, okay, and this cilia beat, okay, this cilia start beating, okay, and which propels and dislodges mucus, okay, dislodges mucus and any trapped microbes upward to the epiglottis, where they will be swallowed, okay. And the elimination of the microbes in this manner is referred to as mucociliary escalator effect, okay. The elimination of microbes in this manner is referred to as mucociliary escalator effect is one of the most important mechanism which basically prevents inhaled microorganisms from migrating further into the lower respiratory tract. Okay, now in the case of upper respiratory tract, okay, which has abundant as well as very diverse microbiota, very diverse. The nasal passages and the sinuses are basically primarily colonized by the members of the Firmicutes, Actinobacteria and Proteobacteria. And the most common bacteria which have been identified which, which have been identified include Staphylococcus epidermidis, Viridian's group Streptococci, Corynebacterium species, especially the diphterioids in this case, Propionibacterium species, and Haemophilus species, and the oropharynx, which basically includes many of the same isolates as nose and the sinuses, and with the addition of variable number of bacteria like species of Prevotella, Fusobacterium, even Moraxella and Eikenella, as well as there are also some of the fungal isolates such as Candida. In addition to this, many healthy humans asymptomatically carry the potential pathogens in the upper respiratory tract. As much as about 20% of the population carry Staphylococcus aureus, okay, in their nostrils. Okay, as much as 20% of Staphylococcus is found in the microbial population of the nostrils. The pharynx too can be colonized with the pathogenic strains of Streptococcus, Haemophilus, and Neisseria, and and the lower respiratory tract now, by contrast, is very less populated. Okay, is very less populated with the microbes. And of the organisms identified in the lower respiratory tract, the species of Pseudomonas and Streptococcus and Prevotella, Fusobacterium and Veillonella are the most common ones basically. And still it is not clear at this time if this small population of bacteria basically constitute normal flora or they are just the transient floras. Okay, I'm again repeating, what are transient flora? Okay, we have discussed in the last lecture, transient flora are those microbial flora, okay, which may be present in the particular system for a less number of time, okay, for a shorter time duration. And many members of the respiratory system's normal microbiota are opportunistic pathogens also, and to proliferate and cause host damage. Okay, so the pathogens, I'm not going to discuss right now. Okay, now the mouth and the upper respiratory tract. Okay, mouth basically contains pigmented and non-pigmented micrococci, gram-positive aerobic spore form bearing bacilli, coliforms, proteus, and lactobacilli.